Hello, so this wasn't really a planned video, as you can see. I'm just lying in bed here, kind of browsing my news feed, and I came across something, which I think unfortunately is a topical reminder of some of the regressive nonsense that drives such divisions in society. Um, the New York Times has hired a journalist by the name of journalist by the name of Sarah Jeong. And this woman, presumably of Asian heritage, I don't know her exact background, but she has attracted controversy with a racist anti-white rant. And I'm going to quote this. This is the quotation from Sarah Jeong when she was on the New York Times, well, the New York Times editorial board. We don't need a military draft. We need a castration lottery for white men. Every month we pull a birthday, sort the excess, and snip some sacks, preferably in a big public gathering. Imagine how serene public transportation would become. Just imagine for a second a white reporter, especially a white man, said something similar about an Asian or a Hispanic or a black person. People. Now, I've no doubt she's going to masquerade it as some sort of attempt at humour. On CNN, there was a debate about it. The Democratic strategist Simone Sanders made excuses for her. There was a Trump supporter, a Trump campaign person by the name of, let me just get this right, Dean Ma, who challenged that. I'm pleased to say. Um, I think the thing that angers me most about cases like this is the double standards. I mean, look at the outrage there was over the Roseanne incident, where there was a big backlash against her racist tweets. She was fired. Now, whether that's right or wrong, decide yourselves. But the point is, if society is going to be against something like racism, it should be consistent. I think the New York Times have shown cowardice by keeping her. Apparently, they've made some apology for causing offence, but it's a non-apology because she's staying in her role. She's still being paid for her role. Now, Simone Sanders made the very sort of apology that you so often hear with the progressive left. Oh, well, it wasn't really racism because of the power dynamic. Because white men have the power, therefore no one else is capable of racism. So because it's Asian American woman saying it, that's okay. As if people have no sort of authority over their own judgment on these things. That's what I hate about that anti-white racism isn't racism argument that the regressive left come out with. It's so wrong. Racism is racism is racism. It isn't rocket science. If you hold animosity towards people because of the color of their skin, you are by definition a racist. Simple as that. Um, I could say I'm angry because I'm a white guy, but I'm angry more about the double standards. If she said this and the New York Times dropped her, I would probably not even spend time thinking about it because I think, okay, well, racists exist, they've done the right thing. But what I find disgusting, and I do use that word, is that they are actually placating her. They're empowering her. So she will then feel the confidence to go and make more rants like this. And whatever context it is meant, all that does is drive divisions in society. And I despise the double standards of it. Um, to those people who defend her, shame on them. You know, I would ask them, do you have white friends? Are you white? If you're a white person and you're defending her, you're a useful idiot. I can't even begin to understand white people who would defend her. I mean, it's bizarre. Um, but this isn't the first time that a liberal publication has placated anti-white racists. There's been other examples in recent years in Canada and the United States, and I find it very depressing because all it's going to do is create deeper division in society. That's all it is going to do. And another thing that irritates me about this is they always frame the critics as right wing, as Trump supporters. Well, I'm very critical of Trump and I'm centre left on a number of issues, but I'm angry about it. So it's a way they try to mold it like it's only Trump supporting white men who are angry. Well, Ying Ma is another Asian American woman and she's taking issue with it, to her credit. Um, I've seen many people, this has generated a lot of online backlash. I've seen a lot of people from various ethnic groups who are seeing it for what it is. So I suppose that's a good thing. But, we hear a lot these days about fake news. I think it's a slightly problematic term because it can be used to describe as anything on mainstream media, which isn't the case. But I do think it's situations like this that cause a massive trust deficit with mainstream media because when they placate double standards, it just infuriates people. And if Trump is re-elected in 2020, then it will be idiots like Sarah Jeong who will be to blame. And the New York Times will moan about it at that time. But maybe they should look at themselves and think, well, maybe that time when we allowed a racist reporter to keep her job, rather than doing the decent thing and firing her, maybe we were part of the problem. I just find it very sad and very depressing. Um, and it does make you wonder what goes on in someone, when are so consumed by hatred of another race. I mean, like I say, she'll probably try and claim it's some sort of satire, some sort of comedy. But, white racists say the same things. They come out with excuses as well. What's the difference? So it's double standards that really I find very hard to handle. If I ever get into any sort of position of authority, if I'm an editor or in any sort of position of authority, I would take a zero tolerance to this sort of thing. But most importantly, I would be consistent. And it's the lack of consistency I find insufferable. Um, I do hope she faces a backlash, not a violent backlash, but I hope she gets a verbal lambasting online because if it's sufficient enough from a wide range of people, it won't be a pleasant thing, but maybe it will force her to introspect and think, well, maybe I'm wrong. I don't think the little I know about her, she strikes me as a very arrogant person. And this apparently is not the first time she's made such a statement. Generally, people like this, unfortunately, because the New York Times have let her keep her post, it's probably emboldening her. And that's what is unfortunate about it. So there's a few approaches those of us who are angry about this can take. But I'm not American, so it's more for American critics. Boycott the New York Times, don't buy it. That's one approach. Say how you feel. Don't make threats. Don't do anything like that. But yeah, voice your outrage about the double standards here. Certainly don't respond with racism against Asians because there's many Asian Americans who take issue with her attitude. Um, don't the worst thing you could do with any racist is play their game. Sarah Jeong is a racist, and the fact that she's being placated by the regressive left as not being a racist doesn't change the fact that she is a racist. Sarah Jeong is a racist. Simple as that. Um, and that's how I hope she becomes known in the public domain by people who have a brain in their head, um, because it's quite simple. Racism is the animosity, discrimination, prejudice against someone because of their ethnic group. That's the definition of racism, and that's what Sarah Jeong displayed. Shame on her apologists, and shame on the New York Times. Unfortunately, I don't think it'll be the last such case, but it is yet another example of it. I won't lie, I sent her a message telling her exactly what I thought of her. Didn't make any threats, but I was very blunt about what I thought about her. I told her she was a disgusting racist because I think she is, and she needs to hear the fact that people are not going to just tolerate this. She's been let off the hook. She is being propped up onto this platform. I think that's a disgrace. I also let the New York Times know how I felt about it. But it's just very sad and unfortunate that there is these such double standards because white racists would rightly face the consequences. So why the hell should Asian or other racists get away with it? That's what I find utterly reprehensible. Let me know your thoughts.